You are fake news.
Sir.
What kind of existence are our news organizations now that so many people have dubbed them the Empire of Lies? According to the 2022 Global Trust Survey released by Edelman, a world-renowned public relations consulting company, the American people's trust in the government is only 39%, close to the historic low since 1958. Many countries around the world have been hurt by the fabricated and spread of false information by U.S. news organizations. In 2020, a survey jointly conducted by U.S. News and World Report, BAV Consulting Company, and the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania showed that the trust degree of the world to the United States had dropped by 50% compared with 2016, the largest decline in the world. Harold Lasswell, one of the pioneers of communication theory, has a view in his book Propaganda Techniques in the Period of World War. The essence of propaganda is to use the media to inject a specific idea into the crowd and push the public opinion in a certain direction, so as to realize the individual's adherence to a specific political ideology without resorting to violence. It seems that we can conclude that if we are not aware that we are being brainwashed, it is probably already done. According to the documents, President Reagan ordered his government to launch a psychological action plan aimed at influencing public opinion in target countries as well as in the United States to gain popular support in favor of American interests. The task of developing and implementing the plan was given to the CIA, under the direction of a group dedicated to covert operations led by Walter Raymond and incorporated into the National Security Council to strengthen its leadership. Concerned about Soviet infiltration in South and Central America, the United States conducted various propaganda and information manipulation operations in countries such as Costa Rica, Cuba, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, and Peru, as well as in other countries where U.S. interests were highly relevant, such as Afghanistan and the Philippines. One of the important tasks is to discover the vulnerability of the target country, and to achieve this, whenever possible, they tacitly allow and connive at news organizations to manipulate news, fabricate news, produce false news, and cover up unfavorable news. In January 1983, U.S. President Ronald Reagan signed Directive 77 on national security, known as the National Security Public Diplomacy Management Directive. The directive reflected the need to strengthen matters related to public diplomacy, activities that were subsequently summarized as strategic communications. On the 13th anniversary of 9/11, an alarmist message began to spread about a serious accident at a chemical processing plant in the town of St. Mary's and urged citizens to take protective measures. Within minutes, the social networking site Twitter was flooded with hundreds of messages from many different accounts, providing data that seemed irrefutable. According to eyewitness accounts and image information, you can see flames engulf the factory. A video from a security camera at a nearby gas station shows the moment of the explosion. Billowing smoke can also be seen on another video from a distance. A carefully crafted YouTube video that no one could see. The flaw showed that some people saw the news on television and added and created Wikipedia pages that showed the truth they saw. To increase credibility, residents of the town were listed as witnesses. Some major media outlets, journalists and politicians, both regional and national, began to receive a flood of information about the disaster. Soon after, in an elaborate YouTube video, the ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack. The globalization of news organizations has caused you to be brainwashed by television, and the internet has removed all concerns from your intuition. The notion of media leading foreign policy emerged in the 1990s, with the so-called CNN effect, derived from the product of the U.S. News Company, which broadcast what was happening around the world 24 hours a day. This immediacy of news creates reality, because television channels determine what is news and what is not. In this way, news organizations have become the makers of world opinion, exerting a powerful influence on the internal and external political actions of some countries. During Somalia's civil war in the early 1990s, media coverage of famine seemed to convince President George W. Bush to send 28,000 troops to support humanitarian volunteers on the ground. However, research by Stephen Livingston and Todd and others shows that the media simply reflect the political intentions of the government. In Operation Restore Hope in Somalia, the government directed the media to embellish the news from Somalia. The government's plan was to draw public attention to the war in Somalia in order to gain popular support to justify military intervention. When people can no longer be controlled by force and other measures, in order to prevent them from feeling that they are living in alienated and oppressed conditions, they must change their thinking consciousness. By inculcating irrational and frightening fears, and using the means of communication of news organizations, the government has achieved its goal of controlling the people.